Today's speaker, Will Bucquoy, I am very thankful that he agreed to share his story and become an advocate of the Oasis Academy. Let me share a little bit about Will, and then we'll get into the questions. Will's journey is one of resilience and renewal. Broken into a broken, abusive home in Oregon, he was raised by his grandparents, and later entered foster care. It was within that system and through compassion of mentors, teachers, and a social worker that he discovered hope and the belief that life could be different. Determined to rise above his circumstances, Will put himself through college and built a 30-year career in the automotive industry, excelling in sales, franchise, ownership, and leadership. Today, he is the founder of Will Bucquoy Photography. He channels his life story into his art, capturing not just images, but the beauty, strength, and the grace that emerge from struggle. His life stands as proof that even the hardest beginnings sometimes create the most extraordinary um, mission. So, it is my honor to introduce you to Will Bucquoy. Will, welcome to the Oasis Academy.
Hi, everybody, and hi, Anjana. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Will. Just a little bit about Will before we get into it. He was actually a wonderful supporter for the Children's Village, and he was our photographer for our galas. But most importantly, I hope you will get to share in your own words, Will, the interaction that you were able to capture in images of the children at the village, and what that did to you when you were doing that in the process. So I know we're going to get into all of that, and I would love for the audience to hear that story from you as well. So let's start from the beginning. Tell us about your childhood circumstances. You were actually told your parents were deceased, and that wasn't the truth. So walk us through how that came about and
Okay, sure. Yeah, I guess I entered the foster care system, I was about 14. I was told at a very early age that my parents were dead, and that turned out to not be true. So as a result of that, I was raised by my grandparents, and I guess I was 9 or 10, and my grandmother suffered a massive stroke, which paralyzed her. It was devastating, and it kept her bedridden for the rest of her life. She, my grandmother, the grandmother I remember before that stroke was an amazing person, creative, artistic, loving, inspiring. You know, the grandmother I remember after the stroke was a completely different person, bitter, angry, um, depressed, you know. Um, my grandpa was he's a hardworking immigrant from Belgium, and he ran a one-man business, a janitorial service. Um, but we were poor. The medical bills for my grandmother's stroke, really took its toll. And while my grandfather worked very hard, I mean, an amazing work ethic. Um, uh, he was also an alcoholic, and he was living a sad life. So, there was some abuse, and so it was just a matter of time before things were just not going to work out either for them or for me. So we lived in a very small town in Oregon, 6,000 people. Literally everybody knows everybody else. Literally everybody knows everybody else's life story. And so in that little town of Oregon, I don't know, for some reason, at this early age, I was able to participate in a variety of activities that were very positive for me, simply because the families of my friends from school recognized that, I was a kid in need. Um, uh, it
So,
Little League, scouting, church groups, school programs, all of those things really came to support me. And the fathers of all of my friends became my surrogate fathers. I don't know if they had a town meeting about me or what, but that's what it felt like. It felt like, um, you know, these families came together, and the support group that I needed and got was from the families of my friends.
so you were actually 14 um, when
Yeah,
you entered foster care, which is a little bit older. And
yeah,
that happened in kind of a unique circumstance. And then how you actually had your first placement also was unique, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I was trying to get out and do things and be active. And one event that I went to, one particular, what triggered everything or instigated my trip into foster care was actually a church group event that I went to, and I was told under no uncertain terms that I was supposed to be home by 9 o'clock or I'd be locked out of the house by my grandparents. So I got home at 9:15, and in fact, I was locked out of the house. So I slept outside that night, and the next morning I was greeted by an Oregon State caseworker who interviewed me and interviewed my grandparents. And then the next thing I knew, I was being removed, mostly for my own safety. The things that led up to all of this wasn't, just one big dramatic thing. It was a slow erosion over time. And so, next thing I knew, I was in a temporary foster care placement. Um, I guess it was a week or so later. One of my classmates noticed that I wasn't my usual self, and I didn't really talk about myself, but for whatever reason, she encouraged me to open up. She got me to open up. And so I told her what was going on. And I didn't realize that, what she was going to do after that. But she literally went home and told her parents about this kid at school, and insisted that her family take me in, like a lost golden retriever or something. So she convinced her parents to, they weren't in the foster care system. They weren't foster care parents. They weren't. So they went through all the steps they had to go through to become foster parents, and to be accepted as foster parents so that they could, you know, take me in from the shelter. I mean, that's not the right word, but that's what it feels like when you're a rescue, and so, um, probably one of the best days of my life, and the fact that they literally chose me. It's really, it's uplifting.
Yeah, that's a little bit unusual because it sounds like you may have known the parents a little bit because of the small town. Typically, kids, when they get placed, don't know anybody. So this was
Right.
a little bit unique in that sense. So what was that like when you started living with them and
In fact, can I interrupt you for a second? So there's a scene in Forrest Gump where the bus driver picks up Forrest Gump, right? And the little girl and the bus driver. So the my classmate's mother was a school bus driver. And so I guess she did know me, because I rode on her school bus from time to time. And so I watched that scene from Forrest Gump, and she's got a cigarette dangling from her mouth, and she's giving little Forrest, wisdom and worldly advice, well beyond his years. And I think fondly of my foster mom. that 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 image just popped up in my head. Thanks for that reminder.
So now you're living in with this new family, new rules, new schedules. What was that like for a 14-year-old young boy,
Well, it
teenager?
was completely different than what I was used to. I mean, living with my grandmother who was bedridden, I was the one who took her to the bathroom half the time, right? Take her out of her bed, put her in a wheelchair, drive her into the bathroom so she could go to the bathroom, right? So I went from that, helping to make dinners for her and presenting those dinners to her on a TV tray in her bedroom. I went from that to this amazingly structured life. I mean, my classmate, she was the youngest of four kids. So all these kids have grown up. All of her older brothers and sisters had grown up, and so, it was strict. They had a lot of rules, and I wasn't used to those kinds of rules, but they turned out to be the kind of structure that, a 14-year-old boy really should have. You don't know it at the time. At the time, you don't think the system's broken. You think you're broken and that there's something, wrong with you. Um, but they gave me that sense that I was okay.
Mhm.
So, trust is a huge issue. Everybody, that I shouldn't say everybody, but so many folks that go through what we others like me have gone through, of course, have trust issues. And so it's hard to let someone in. It's hard to accept what they're saying to be truth, or that they're not going to, let you down in some way or not be there for you in some way. It's hard to accept that. You brace yourself for the fact that, you know, they might let you down.
Mhm.
Um, but they didn't. They didn't.
And so that's when, is that when a lot of these mentors started coming into your life? You were part of the Boy Scouts of America. Is that when all of that started happening? Just kind of
Yeah, it's well, I guess it was even happening while I was still living with my grandparents. And like I
Mhm.
said, I think the town must have had a town hall meeting about me. I wasn't invited, but I had teachers that, in a small town, as I said, everybody knows everything about everyone else. And if you're a foster kid in a small town, at least the small town I grew up in, you really stick out like a sore thumb. I mean, everybody knows. And so, yeah, there were, my grandpa grew up in Belgium. He doesn't know about Little League. He doesn't know about church groups or theater programs, but my friends' dads did.
Mhm.
So they encouraged me to try out for Little League teams, right? And they encouraged me to join the Boy Scouts, and they encouraged me, I had a teacher who, recognized maybe I could use a couple of bucks in spending money, and he hired me to just rake leaves, in his backyard, and paid me to do some yard work for him. This was one of my teachers in school, and so I don't know, I don't know, but those things presented themselves, and when I talk about Boy Scouts, you know the the Boy Scouts of America make you, they teach you skills in life you can't learn any other way, right? Some of them are survival skills,
Mhm.
first aid, whatever. But mostly what you learn in that kind of a structure is you learn that you can do things. They present challenges for you. You have to figure out how to master how to solve those problems and master that challenge. And when you do, um, you feel pretty damn good. And
Yeah.
so for me, and there's other things. I'm not saying the Boy Scouts of America is the only thing, but for me, it was amazing.
Yeah, one
And
of the things, that you shared with me, you said, they didn't try to fix me. They just showed up consistently with kindness and curiosity. that gave
Yeah.
you a glimpse of what trust could feel like. And I love that you shared that because that's exactly what we're creating here at the Oasis Academy. We're creating this safety net group of therapists, mentors, and teachers to show up consistently. And it was so moving for me because I thought, well, that's what adults need is consistency, right?
Right.
And yeah, so at that time, you were just doing things, going to Boy Scouts, going to baseball, uh, but that organized system, it actually was helping you.
Right. Right. Huh. Boy Scouts. Thanks for conjuring up all these memories for me just now. I appreciate it. One of the things that lives with me, and we're talking about, I didn't feel like they came to fix me. In fact, they taught me that I could fix things. One of these scout leaders had something rigged under his shirt, under his sleeve, with a little tube that could squirt out blood, fake blood.
Mm.
And I didn't know that. Nobody knew that. So he's sitting there, and there's a group of us, 10 of us, I guess, kids, and he's whittling on this piece of wood, and he's chipping away, and wood chips are flying, and then all of a sudden he just says, "Oh my God!" And then he's activating this pump, and blood is squirting everywhere.
Gosh.
So there's 10 of us, give or take, and we're all sitting around watching this, and some of us freaked out and ran around and didn't know what to do. And some of us, because of our training, we knew right away you'd apply direct pressure first, right? And um, I wasn't the only one, but I was certainly one of them that said, "Hey, direct pressure, direct pressure." And so, going back to what you were saying about, they didn't come to try to fix me; they proved that I could fix things. That gives you a sense of purpose and gives you a skill set and a confidence
Mhm.
that you can't get unless you live through those experiences and have those opportunities to learn that way.
Yeah, you
It's
were
pretty
getting
cool.
empowered for sure. So you also put yourself through college.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
What were you,
Well,
how did
I
that?
had a little help from the state of Oregon.
Mhm.
In fact, when you're a foster kid, there are benefits you get that other poor families maybe don't. There are school loans you can get. There are school grants you can get. So I had some help with money for school, but I also had to, get a job, a near full-time job, and I also had to, um, you know, do the work, and man, my freshman year, I'm amazed I survived it because I was out in the world on my own really for the first time in my life. And there's a certain freedom that you're afforded as I was not even 18 yet because I was very young in my
Mm.
grade. Um, and all of a sudden I'm in Eugene, Oregon, just having my 18th birthday and learning about beer and girls and all of that other stuff in addition to books. So um, I, I'm happy I survived that year. But again, it's a learning experience, and the fact that I I didn't want people to just hand me stuff. I wanted to earn it. And I don't know why. I mean, I can say now why. I can say now that it's because you get a sense of accomplishment by doing those things, earning those things, achieving those things. But at the time, I didn't know why. I just knew that that's what I needed to do, and I did it. My first year of college was the year they filmed Animal House on campus.
Oh,
So it was great. They tore this frat house down, and Belushi was there. I watched him film that scene in the lunchroom where he's blowing mashed potatoes all over everybody, and I got a chance to drive the Deathmobile. I tried out to be one of the extras in the toga scene party. They just wanted kids from campus, so I showed up. I didn't get picked because the sheet I bought for my toga was too new. It still had the creases in it from the folds when you get it, when you buy a sheet. Damn it. Remember, if you ever try out, don't use new sheets for toga scenes. So,
Good to,
um,
good to know.
but what a, I just had so many great experiences like that. And, I count myself very lucky.
Well, it's interesting to hear you say, I just did it. I wanted to, I wanted all of these experiences. And one of the important factor in success for youth, in, it's not all these amazing academic courses or extracurricular activities. Um, it's actually grit. And that's what you were exhibiting, Will. And that's what the Oasis Academy is about, to help children in foster care, orphanages, homeless youth that exhibit that grit. It's just that they want that. And so, to having an organized pathway that we will have, we want to serve kids who want that, and give them that opportunity. And you know, I'm hearing your story, and it sounds like all of these really genuine, caring people came into your life in different phases to help you get to the next, to the next. I mean, the statistics of foster children actually completing college is very slim. And for you to just do that on your own, get a job, find this, navigate through the system. I mean, such a huge transition going away to college for kids, and you point that out, and you did it.
I, I'm trying to pat myself on the back right now. Thank you.
Yeah. So moving forward, there was a dramatic shift for you when you turned 50. And
Yeah.
what was that, and how are you able to manage your emotional sense during that time?
So, my the period of time from my college days to my 50th birthday were pretty good. I built a business, a very successful business. I served on a variety of boards as a director. I was the president of the dealers group for 20 years. I made a few bucks. I bought a house, went on nice vacations, took my kids on nice vacations, and did all of those things that you're supposed to do. But the one thing I didn't do was I didn't fulfill myself creatively. I didn't, I made a good living. I raised kids, and that can be an amazing accomplishment all by itself, just raising kids, and it is for a lot of folks. But when I turned 50, one of my good friends, also 50, just suddenly stopped breathing. He just stopped breathing. We didn't know, he died. He passed a heart attack, right? And he had a whole notebook full of dreams, kids, a wife, house, mortgage, all of the stuff I had, but he didn't have, he wasn't checking those boxes of those things that he really, really wanted to accomplish with his life. And that scared the hell out of me, to be honest. I'm like, wow, is that it? Right? I mean, I built a business. I felt good. I felt accomplished. I felt successful. Uh, but the good news at age 50 is my kids now are getting ready to, move out on their own. So I was getting ready to be you know, uh, have an empty nest. And I thought, I've always loved photography. I've always been a hobbyist. In fact, it was my grandmother before her stroke who actually put a camera in my hand for the very first time. I mean, film. She developed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rolls of film of photos I took of the family dog. God bless her, right? She must have spent a fortune. Um, I decided I wanted to be a photographer. I decided I needed to be a photographer. I decided I should be a photographer and I should own a photography business. But I also decided I needed to make sure I could eat, that my photography business could, keep a roof over my head and keep groceries in my cabinet. So I did a thing. I just said, let's dual track. I'm going to run my business and I'm going to start a photo business and I'm going to dual track and I'm going to build contacts. I'm going to build a client list. I'm going to get out there and point my camera at anything that sits still long enough to let me shoot it. And earn trust of people to the point where they're willing to give me money to take photos of. So I did that and I did it and I studied photography. I studied how to use cameras. I studied other photographers. I studied what everything. I also studied the business of photography. You still need insurance for your business. You still need to advertise. You need to, so there. I studied everything, and after about 3 or 4 years, I guess I finally decided, okay, I think I can do this. I sold my old business, and I'm not kidding. I put my key in the lock of that door for the last time, and I never looked back. And my photo business literally tripled overnight. That next week, it just blew up. It was phenomenal, and I think it's because I focused all my attention on the photo business instead of dual tracking. And I discovered, yeah, I can buy groceries, and yeah, I can make the car payment, and yeah. But then I also, and this is really the driver for me behind making this change, whether it's photography or you want to be a singer or a dancer or whatever your aspiration is. That's even the right word. I think it is. It's got to fill you up. It's got to, and you got to commit yourself to it and do it. And right now in my life, and I'm not kidding, it's been 15 years. Every morning I wake up and I'm like, where's my camera going to take me today? And I've got a rough idea because I have a photo shoot calendar, but when I take my camera to those things, I discover that my camera takes me to places I can't even buy a ticket to for any amount of money. And I mean, I've been lucky. I've been on the field for sporting, professional sports. I've been right there leaning on the stage for some of my favorite rock stars. I've been, you know, the photo shoots I was in Monaco shooting Formula One. I was like, the bliss of shooting Yosemite and the temple and the religious experience of being in Yosemite and capturing all of that in camera. But even those things don't compare to the moments that happen as a photographer. And one of them was with you, with the Children's Village. You and some of your folks, I think also one of the sponsors, maybe, but was a bank or somebody, you
Oh yeah.
organized with the San Francisco Giants to bring kids onto the field to meet their stars on the field at each of their playing positions. So these foster kids who've never even been to a high school baseball game are on the field, San Francisco Giants in their heyday, 50,000 fans in the seats, and they're standing at first base. They're standing on the mound with Madison Bumgarner, one of the greatest pitchers ever. They're at second base. They're at, this chokes me up. This one kid standing at home plate with Buster Posey. who's on one knee.
Take your time.
Buster Posey's on one knee with a baseball, handing it to this kid, and their noses are 4 inches apart. 50,000 people in the stands. And Buster is talking to this kid like no one else on the planet even exists. And I'm shooting, and I'm on the field with these kids and these players, and the metaphor for baseball is you get up to the plate, some guy throws a rock at you, you hit the rock as hard as you can, and then you run around the bases until you can get home.
It's a good one.
Sorry.
No, no,
These kids who just
yeah, just
these kids from broken homes.
it was a beautiful moment, and you captured it. You captured it in color, in black and white, and then you gave them the photos to all the children. And it is a memory that they will have forever. And they may not recall you taking the picture, but it is imprinted in them, and you were such a big part of that. And
Great feeling. Do I have snot on my face anywhere? Yeah, it
I would
was.
hand you a glass of water if we were sitting
I
here.
think I
Um,
need a margarita right now. Yeah, these kids who they just want to get home. They just want to get to where they can be safe.
yeah.
And you created that memory for them and for me. And it's those moments. And that's why I do what I do now.
Mhm.
There were other moments of the village too. I mean, the whole goal of the village was to try to keep sibling foster kids together versus getting split up in foster care because foster homes can't take 4 kids at one time. And so that was one of the goals of the children's center. And I remember doing photo shoots with those siblings. And, we all hug our brothers and sisters. But when you're a sibling, a foster kid, and you've been separated from your siblings, and you finally get to see each other, um, these kids hug themselves in a totally different way.
I had
You
this one
can't buy a
other
ticket to that.
I had this one other memory of you doing a photo shoot, um, and we were working with canine companions, and
Yeah.
a load of puppies came to the village, and we called you up, said, "Hey, are you free? Can you?" Boy, you jumped in the car and came over, and yeah, do you remember that one very special story?
uh, yeah, all these kids, and we were going to take pictures. And this one, the last one, she was just avoid. She didn't want. She's like a lot of people. I don't want my photo taken. I definitely don't want my photo taken today. And yeah, I remember a wheelbarrow, and I remember someone gathering up all of these brand new puppies. I mean, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 puppies, all of them about 8, 9, 10 weeks old. And this little girl agreeing begrudgingly to hop in the wheelbarrow while we piled puppies on top of her. And within minutes, she was laughing and being bombarded with puppy kisses and smiling, and the kind of smile that you can't get any other way. It was such a great moment for
Yeah.
her and for all those kids. Yeah,
And your camera did the magic, and you were the one
yeah.
right in the middle of creating really great experiences, and all of them got to keep those photos as well. So, thank you for sharing that very compassionate story. Well, and as I want to also share that Will is very humble, but he has actually done many galas for nonprofits in Sonoma County, and people know him by his talent, but he does a lot of give back, and I wanted to mention that very much so. It's
Thank you.
a big heart. So, how are things going now? And as we have talked a lot about the Oasis Academy, you pointed to me, had the Oasis Academy existed when you were a teenager, how that would have been a complete game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, you know, I haven't interviewed that many foster kids, but I think probably a lot of their experiences might be similar to mine in that, you're trying to cobble things together, right? You're trying to survive, you're trying to figure things out. And a lot of times you're trying to figure things out on your own, sort through things on your own and come up with ideas on your own. And you do that on your own for a variety of reasons. Some of those reasons are you don't trust what other people tell you, right? So some of those reasons are you just it's just the only way you know. Um, the I think the Oasis Academy would have been a major game changer for me because it would have been an environment where there are all of these things there that are available. You don't have to hobble them together necessarily to uh to create your life, to create the formula for how you're going to live and work and breathe for the rest of your life. And so, yeah, I think it would have been huge for me. I mean, there when you're when you're out of the foster care system, but certainly when you're a teenager, you have all of these questions. And someone who lives in a nuclear family where there's it's solid and it's structured and it's there's family and you have someone that you can trust, that you can go to and you can ask questions. How do I ask this girl out on a date? How do I solve this science problem? You know what kind of car should I start driving now? What kind of car should I get? I mean, all of the is there a God? Everything, all of these questions. And the Oasis Academy, I think, gives you a it's a program that offers structure in a way that you just can't or might not be able to have any other way. So yeah, for me, it would have been a huge game changer. It might have saved me decades of self-doubt. I mean, man, when you're in your 19s to 20s and even 30, coming up on 30s, there's lots of doubt that you have, about your own self-worth, about your own ability, about what you can do, what you can't do. And, some people are able to, they just have that courage or they just don't, they don't worry about, am I going to fail? But a lot of us, do. We don't know. We don't know what we can do. We don't know what things are available to do. We don't know what things are possible. And I think the Oasis Academy would have yeah, probably would have saved me decades.
Yeah. Well, we're so grateful that all these really amazing people walked into your life,
Yeah,
and now you get to live your best life with your camera and see where it takes you daily, and tap into your creative process, and give us the gift of art. That's huge, and it's pretty incredible.
thanks. Yeah, I feel like I'm doing pretty good. I've built a photo biz. As I pointed out, every day is a new adventure. Um, I've got an amazing wife who's so supportive, who I can take on a lot of my photo gigs with me, and she hears the same jokes and still laughs the hardest, and puts up with the long, when you own a business, a lot of entrepreneurs are not strangers to 80, 90 hour work weeks. That's, 16-hour days. That's just it. But, there's a old saying that if you find a career that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's what I've done. And I've been able to do it with somebody who, um, who gets all of that and wants to be part of it. And she shines for herself in doing that. She doesn't just live in my shadow. She creates her own glow. Um, and if you ever get a chance to, you've met her, but other folks, when you meet her, you'll see it immediately. It's I got lucky, got real lucky.
Very grateful to you, Will, for sharing your very moving story and so inspirational. And I appreciate your vulnerability and the grit that you hold and the amazing people, including your beautiful wife in your life right now, that is really giving you the freedom to create and be curious all the time. So thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you. Thanks. I really appreciate the opportunity to spend this time with you.